would say it's too late. You're in the clouds and you're task saturated. And
so what resources do we have?
Yeah.
Right? What resources do we have up there? First of all, you're in the clouds, you should be talking to the controllers, right? So they are your lifeline to the ground. They are there to help you. The biggest thing that I like to point out to people about controllers, and you've heard me say this over and over again, they're there to serve you. Period. That's it. Their whole entire job is to serve pilots. We call them air traffic controllers. And as I've told you before, I always feel like that's a misnomer. They're air traffic facilitators. If we didn't exist, they couldn't possibly exist, right? The only reason they exist is because we're out there doing this stuff. The only reason you have a server at a restaurant is because I'm walking in to buy some food. That's it. So when I go and ask you for the food the way I want it, that's what I expect. I don't expect my server to come up and say, today you're going to get X, Y, and Z. Because I'm going to go, that's not what I wanted. I'm just going to go to a different restaurant, I suppose. And a lot of times with controllers, we get this sense, because we call them controllers and because they sound like they're authorities and we mostly listen to what they say, we get the sense that they are like air police, right? And we got to do what they're telling us, right? They're directing all this traffic and they're doing all this stuff and we got to do what they're telling them, otherwise we're going to get an air ticket. And that's just not the case. They're more like servers in a restaurant than they are like cops directing traffic. They're there to facilitate, they're there to give us what we want. They won't always be able to give you what you want, right? You go up and ask for a cheeseburger and they say, dude, oh man, we ran out of cheese today, can you believe it? Can't give you a cheeseburger. You can ask for a cheeseburger until you're blue in the face and they can't give you one, right? Unless you bring your own cheese. They just can't give you one. So we have to understand that they also have limitations. We can't just walk in and expect to get everything that we want or whatever we want, right?
Yeah, I can't just go
walk into a salad bar and ask for a burger. They're going to go, wrong friggin' restaurant, man.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? So they can't give you everything you want. But if I walk into a salad bar and ask for a Cobb salad and they say, well, we only give you Caesar here. This is the crappy salad bar. I'm out, right? And that's not where I'm going to hang out. So this isn't... we really need to look at them like that. And back to your question of, I'm task saturated, I'm in the clouds. Those controllers can help you out quite a bit. Be honest with them. Hey, look, man, what I need right now is I need a vector to whatever. I need to fly straight and level for a little bit. You got to give me some delays, right? I just need to get my senses straight. I'm completely out of sorts up here. Most controllers are also pilot. Well, I shouldn't say most, but I think about half of the controllers are also pilots, if not more. So most of them have been through this, at least a little bit. And so they can be empathetic to that, right? And as facilitators, I don't know if you listen to that ATC communication with the whole Horizon thing, or the guy that stole the airplane, the Dash 8.
Some of them, yeah.
Those guys were... They didn't care. They were just trying to help a guy get on the ground.
Yeah.
Right? And that's their job. They're just trying to help a guy get on the ground. That's really what they want to do. And so nobody's out there to air marshal you or to punish you or to get you in trouble. They're there to help you. That's what they're there for. Most of them, like I said, are pilots. So they understand that not everybody, it's a different world up there. Reach out to them for help. That's thing number one. It's nice to have that lifeline, that connection to the ground. They can really help you out. If for no other thing than just going, fly this heading at this altitude. Can you do that for me? And especially since you probably got an autopilot in that airplane. Yes, I can. And now all of a sudden, you've taken this and you've at least brought it down to here.
Yeah.
Right? And that might be all you need to be able to say, oh, now I'm starting to see what I need to see. Right? Too often, we end up with our ego just oversaturating ourselves, right? So think about these scenarios. How many times have you tried to listen to ATIS and ATC at the same time in between here and Payne?
Yeah.
So let's think about that flight. You take off out of Renton on a flight to Payne, on an IFR flight to Payne, which is 20 minutes away tops, right? And basically, by the time you're 800 feet and handed over to Seattle Approach, what's Seattle Approach ask you for? hey, you got the weather at Payne?
Yeah.
How the hell would I have the weather at Payne? Right? I mean, I can't even identify the VOR at Payne yet. Right? So how am I going to get the weather? But what do we do as pilots? Oh, damn, I don't have the weather yet. I better get that right now. Man, we're not even 1,000 feet yet. And boom, right? You just saturated yourself, right? Because now what we're worried about is something that's honestly relatively unimportant. Because how much different is the weather at Payne? I mean, we just got a weather briefing. We just took off. It's literally 20 miles away.
And you have some time, and if it's bad when you get there, you come back.
You come back, right? If something has drastically changed, we'll be able to figure it out. We got time. But that's not how we think about it. All we think is, oh God, somebody told me to do something. I better do it right now, right? And so now we're climbing out. We're trying to listen to ATC instructions. And if you know anything about the airspace right there, pretty soon they're going to hand you off to the next controller, right? And then while you're listening to Payne, they come back on and say, yeah, switch over to 123.9. And you're like, oh God, what was that? Meanwhile, the ATC is going on in the background and your instructor's over here going, oh, Jesus.
Why do they do that?
Why do they do that, right? How many times have I said, hey, ask for a frequency change, right?
Yeah.
Do one task at a time. Because if you've ever tried to listen to two things in your ears, it is really hard to do. I mean, it's impossible for me, but it is really hard to do. And that's not the only thing you're doing. You're also flying an airplane. You're also trying to brief an approach because it's about to happen, right? You're also doing all these other things, and you still haven't even leveled off at your cruise altitude yet.
Yeah.
So all of this, I mean, as I'm rolling this ball down the hill, you can see it getting bigger and bigger and careening out of control into an avalanche that isn't going to be beneficial to us whatsoever. And how does your approach look at the end of that? Right? Probably not great. Let's rewind and see the things we could have done. Hey, do you have the weather at Payne yet? No. First of all, if we know anything about the airspace, one of the things we can look at is, well, what's the frequency for Seattle approach up at Payne? It's 128.5. I'm on 119.2 right now. You want to know who actually doesn't care about whether I have the radar or whether or not? 119.2. 128.5 definitely does. But 119.2, they're all part of the same team. So he's just like, hey, you got the weather?
Yeah.
Because that's his job, right? But it really doesn't matter until you get a little bit farther down the line, right? So we can just that simple fact alone might be enough to lower ourselves. But okay, we didn't know that. All right, so what else can I do? Well, I can say, hey, you know what? Can I get a momentary frequency change to get Payne's weather? And I'll come back to you and let you know when you have it. And he can say one of two things. You know what? I'm going to hand you off to 23.9 here in about a mile, so just stay with me until you get to him and ask him for that. Mm-hmm. Or he's going to say, yeah, go ahead. Let me know when you're back on. And then I can switch. I can listen. I can do one task. And not one task, because I'm also still climbing an airplane and doing all this other kind of stuff. But I can limit the number of tasks I have to do. And I can get the weather. I can come back and say it. Or I can just wait. Right? Because what's the worst that's going to happen? They don't let me shoot an approach because I don't have the weather. At that point, I can just say, hey, you know what? I'm not ready to shoot this approach. How about you give me some delay vectors out here? Can I enter a hold? Can I do this? Can I do that? Yeah, great. No problem, man. No, right? No worries. What you have to remember is what they're used to is people starting way over here, ending up way over here, and having lots of time in the meantime to do all this other stuff we need to do. We're starting here and going here and have to do all that exact same amount of stuff in this amount of time. We don't get to reduce the number of tasks we have to do. All we've done is reduce the time we have to do them in. They also are used to people having two pilots, right? Yeah. With two pilots, guess what one does? One goes off, uses his other radio, and says, hey, what's the weather? Great, yeah, we got Delta at Payne. And then the guy who's talking on the radio goes, yeah, we got Delta at Payne. He might not even know what it is, because the other pilot took care of it, and he got it written down on a little pad of paper. Here it is, man. Right? You can look at it anytime he wants. You don't have that luxury, right? You don't have me over there saying, I'll listen to the weather for you, right? That's not at all what I do, right? So part of that task saturation drill is also getting you guys to understand how to reduce that saturation all on your own. And there's lots of ways to do it, right? If you need to do 25 push-ups, you can be strong enough to knock them all out all at once. Or you can do 10, look at me and say, I'm going to take a couple minutes, do another 10. I got 5 more in me in just a second, and do your 5. That's still 25 push-ups. One guy took longer, but they both did 25 push-ups, so at the end of the day, do I care? No. Doesn't matter. The same amount of work was done. And that's where we need to understand where we're at. You are probably only good enough to do what we just talked about in these very few times, like right after your check ride and while we're doing all this kind of stuff and blah, blah, blah. But if you take a few months off, it doesn't feel like that anymore, right? And so your abilities are constantly in flux, right? And you're always going to be competent right in here, right? If you wait too long, obviously you're not, right? Yeah. But you're probably never going to be up over here in expert level because you just don't do this enough, right? I mean, that's the simple fact of it. You're never going to be over here unless you decide to, like, this is all I do every day. I'm going to fly instrument approaches every day. Then guess what? You're going to be real, real good at it. But it wasn't time and money for that.
Yeah.
So we have to accept that we're going to float around here in the middle somewhere, probably in the upper end of the middle, if we're keeping on top of our things and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But that's where we exist, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We just have to accept that that is where we exist, and understand that not every flight that Delta is going to do is going to be a flight that we do, for very obvious reasons, right? We don't have the same equipment, we don't have the same training, we don't have the same experience, we don't have 2 pilots, we don't have, right? There's a zillion and one reasons why they're doing it and we're not. They're also getting paid to do it. We're paying to do it. If this isn't fun, why?
Yeah.
Right? How many flights have you had like that? Where you've just gone, man, that was just a lot of work is all that was. I didn't enjoy it very much. But guarantee you spent $300 or $400 to find that out. Right? Right?